Hello, it's Diane with Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com, and this is a second video for my in-person class, the projects that we made for January 2023, and the host wanted to make some cards for using some dinosaurs, and there's none in the current catalog, and the only one that I had was No Bones About It, which is a retired set. And so I'm gonna do another retired replay, and this is kind of like more of a dinosaur dig. This one I couldn't get the tint right on the embossing paste, but this is using an embossing paste where you actually stamp into the embossing paste. And so I wanted to try to get it a little bit darker on the paste. So let me bring in this. Oh, well, let me go through the pieces that we need first. So I'm also using some retired designer series paper. So you'll need a vanilla, very vanilla thick cardstock. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and you scored in landscape at 4 1/4, and you'll fold that. Then you're going to have a piece of crumb cake. This one is 5 by 3 3/4, and that's what we're going to be doing our embossing paste in there. Then I had a retired Mosaic Mood DSP that I was able to cut a strip to create some color in the background. And then this Wood Textures DSP, I believe, is also retired. And this is a 2.5 by 1 inch piece, and then you'll need a scrap of mint macaron cardstock. This idea was inspired by, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but it's Jamila Ivitz. I was able to find a picture, but I never could find a website or anywhere to get dimensions or anything. So this is kind of my version of hers. And so let me move these parts out of the way so we can get started with the actual embossing part. And this set is a photopolymer set, and which means it doesn't have any cushioning between the stamp and the block, and there's no cushioning if you're doing this on the directly to the table. So you'll need something to that kind of gives to be able to make a better impression. And then what I did is I took a little bit of the embossing paste and put it on a silicone mat, and then I'm just going to add some this one is Early Espresso ink refill to this and try to mix it in. The last time I had, I think, too much of the white embossing paste and couldn't get it dark enough. It's happening again. Let me try a little bit more. The Early Espresso. I tried it with some crumb cake and it was just too light, and I tried it with soft suede and it was too light. So I'm just trying again to see if I can get this. I actually didn't have any embossing paste when I was making my examples, because I found out that it doesn't store well for like over a year. So it dried up. Okay, it looks like it's just not getting quite the color I want it. So anyway, I searched around the internet because I just needed it really quickly. Let me just move this off to the side if I can. And I found this one lady on Pinterest was sharing how she kind of made some embossing paste. It's not quite as good as the one from Stampin' Up, but at least it worked for what I needed. But anyway, you can tint the white embossing paste for Stampin' Up. If you've got a large project, I would encourage you to get the Stampin' Up brand. Let me grab something else here. Of embossing paste, because it is better. But anyway, I found this recipe, and it used white acrylic paint, baby powder, and Mod Podge or white glue. Well, in order to get the brown the way that I wanted it, I went ahead and just used brown paint, acrylic paint, instead of the white paint. And so that's what I used for the class. And these dry very quickly. So what I'm going to do, move that out of the way. You definitely want to have some baby wipes around when you're doing this project. I'm also going to be using Versamark and the black Memento ink in order to help the dinosaur skeleton to show up better on this. So what I did was take a little bit less, is I just kind of started smearing, and it doesn't have to be real pretty. You just want a layer of that paste. And then I stamped the skeleton into the Versamark, which kind of creates a barrier. And then I stamped it in the black, and then I pushed it down into, and I just kind of held it a little bit and pushed, and then come straight back up, and you get kind of this impression of a skeleton in the dirt. So that I'm going to set off to the side to let it dry, and I'm going to go ahead and put these other things out of the way. Because they will be definitely messy. And I don't want to stick anything in it. And try to clean this with I do have in my studio here a bowl of water with a toothbrush. I didn't borrow anybody's that they use. I got a brand new one and just use it for my crafting. And so I'm going to wash that stuff, and then I will wash it with the toothbrush and water here in just a minute. I don't need that one again at this time. So the scrap piece of, the reason I chose mint macaron is because it corresponded with this designer series paper. And so I wanted to, on my original design, the one that a picture of it is in on my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com. This is for January 2023. I had originally used some dark garden green on here, but I wanted to make it match the designer series paper a little bit better. So I'm pulling out the mint macaron. And this one, I'm going to use the mint macaron ink and the leaf from the stamp set. Oh, my stuff is moving around on me. And then you want to have at least 5 leaves on here. I was watching think it was Lisa Curcio the other day, and she shared a tip that if your photopolymer stamp isn't getting inked real well and there looks like there's kind of some dead spots, you should probably go ahead and stamp it into a Versamark ink pad, and then you can use whatever ink you want to stamp it, and then you just kind of clean it off. You may even want to clean it off before. I'm going to restamp one of these because it didn't get everywhere like I wanted. So anyway, once you clean that off, it should work better. She said it just needed something. I've also seen someone shared that they took a rubber eraser and they rubbed it on the photopolymer stamp, the stamp side, and they didn't have any problems with stamping. It was clear. So those are some tips that maybe you might want to try. Then have those pieces done. The wood Textures DSP is where I'm going to be stamping the sentiment, and I chose the No Bones About It, You're Great. And I'm just going to stamp that in actually early espresso ink. My ink pads are well loved and well used, and we use them in classes. And sometimes people get real happy about pushing in on these stamps, but all you really need to do is get ink on the raised portion. The new pads that have the foam, when you start pushing in, you're going to get it all around the outside edges and down inside. So there was somebody at an onstage that I went to once, and they shared, it was either that or I was watching a YouTube video, and I'm thinking it was Simply Stamping. I can't remember now, and I cannot remember her name, but she said it's like kissing a bunny. You just want to do it very lightly on there, but when you go to put it on the, or no, it wasn't on stage, and it was kissing your grandma. So you kiss your grandma real lightly, but then when you go to kiss your significant other, which is when you're stamping it, you want to smooch that right down in there and hold it and let it get into the paper, and then you'll just pull that off. And so it gives a very good impression on that. So let me move that off to the side. Come on. And I'm going to stamp this kind of on my grid paper to get most of the ink off. It helps when you're using your chamois to get the ink off without having to get it really dirty. So if you stamp it a few times, it'll take some of that ink off so that you don't get the chamois real dirty. So the next thing I'm going to do is on the front of the card, I'm going to do some generation stamping, which is where you stamp it 3 different times to get the varying shades of a color. I'm going to use the soft suede, and these little footprints I think are for the Triceratops, because I think it's more like an elephant foot, and so these are kind of round instead of the forked foot like the raptors and Tyrannosaurus and stuff. So let me, and you're just going to want to go everywhere all over the front of your card. I know that some of it's going to be covered up, but it will look really nice. So I need to like I said earlier in another video that I made this morning, is it's kind of cold out here in northwest Nevada, so it's the inks aren't inking very much because they're kind of cold. I try to keep my studio temperature controlled with heaters and air conditioners, but sometimes they work better than others. And then I'm going to do some more. I'm just getting happy, and you don't have to do this many. I'm just doing quite a few. Oh, get some more over here. All right, so you've got several of these footsteps now across the front. Now, this stamp set does not come with any dies, so you do have to fuzzy cut these with the paper snips or cut around them. I've already done that just to save a little bit of time on the video, so I already have those ready. And then this thing, that the embossing paste is still not dry yet. You can take a heat tool to it and dry it a little bit faster, but in order to speed up some of the time, I went ahead and this piece, after I've done it, I tore the edges around it a bit, and then I used a dauber to create kind of a burnt edges look. And so I've got dimensionals on the back of that. Now I'm using, I think I can move the thing here away. So this is the Mosaic Mood. Someone at the class turned it over and decided that they wanted to use something with a little more contrast, which you can use whatever papers you want. Another way of using this technique could be in creating like a seal, where you stamp an image into something on your card that makes it look like a seal, those old-timey seals. But I'm using the Seal Plus. You could also do this with some tinted embossing powder in a different color that you could put leaves in. So I'm going to put this, and 5.5 is exactly the width of the card, so it should fit straight across. Try not to put it down yet until I get it lined where I want it to. Come on. Trying to do this easily because the Seal Plus sticks very well. All right, and then you stick that down with just regular glue. And then on this one, I'm going to kind of cock it a little bit on the front, which is what Jamila, I haven't heard her name, so I'm not sure how to say it. And I'm not sure where she's from. It was just a picture that was shared on Pinterest. But I did find out at least who had done the card. So anyway, I'm going to kind of cock this a little bit on the front of the card and put that there. Now, in order to adhere the leaves, I'm going to use just glue dots. someone in my class had done, pulled them off a different way than I normally do. Oh, it's a little bit cold, like I said, and it didn't grab the glue dot. There we go. So I kind of went around in a couple of places. I put 2 leaves and together, and then another place I just did 1. So over here, I'm going to do 2 over here too, I think. And just be prepared to get a little messy when you're using the embossing paste. And then I'll put this one over here because I'm going to put the label on this side, and I'm gonna, on the side that kind of comes off of this piece, I'm going to put dimensional over here. Do a couple of them. I'm trying to figure it out. So it needs to go this way. And then on the other side, I'll just put some Seal Plus to stick it straight down. Excuse the noise if you can hear it. My husband's doing some work outside with the tractor. Oh, I forgot to take off these pieces, the backings on the dimensionals. So I'm going to put that over here. And then you can stamp whatever you want on the inside. I have a Dino-rific birthday, and I'm going to stamp that again in the early espresso on the inside. And if you want, you could also take that mint macaron and stamp a couple of leaves. Kind of around there. And then you have a cute card for someone. Be good for kids, be good for guys, and it just kind of gives some interest there. So I hope that you enjoyed learning this trick about stamping into the embossing paste. If you have a little bit thicker paste, you get more of an impression. And the reason that I used the black ink was to kind of help it to show up in the soil. But I hope that you enjoyed sharing this with me, and that you will check out my blog at www.dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com. And I do have the measurements on there for these cards, for the dimensions, and you can shop with me if you'd like to get any of the products. Of course, this particular stamp set isn't available anymore, but there are other stamp sets you could get. Like I said, impressions, if you did it on the background of a card or a layer behind, you could add some leaves or flowers that are kind of like fossilized, things like that. So I hope that you enjoyed, and I appreciate if you would help me to get the word out, share my videos with my blog, and appreciate it. Thank you for shopping with me when you have, and thank you for liking my videos. I appreciate it.